We get into our Friday Five now and open up the gates for the crew. That was the voice of Bill Stubblefield. You heard John Gilstrap. Says, welcome back the longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning, everybody.
He is doing a great job as a sub on the program here while Mr. Doyle is in Charleston and Mr. Schultz is on hiatus. Norwood Bentley.
Happy to be here again.
Happy to have you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And via telephone in the Joe Ferretti pants optional seat, it is David Valente. Good morning, David.
Good morning. I've actually got a lot of clothes on today because it's chilly in my basement. So,
well, we'll just always
put
you.
We're happy to know that.
There, you know?
Sufficiently insulated.
I don't know.
Let's
My
call
theater
it
of the
that.
mind says you're just defensive. So,
kind of. Yeah, all right. David, and we appreciate you ceding some of your time for Mr. Hardy's update on the data center news that broke yesterday. And you get issue number 1, sir, to start off the program.
Yeah, and I'm going to call an audible because I know I sent you all a few topics ahead of time, but based off of this, recent news to the last couple of days, we've heard about Anthropic, which is an AI-driven company that is holding. Essentially, they've been working with the Department of Defense on bringing more artificial intelligence to the Department of Defense. In the recent days, the founder of Anthropic has said that they're holding the line on 2 issues. One of those is the use of AI when it comes to automated weaponry. And then the other one is more AI when it comes to information about essentially having all the information about domestic people. So in response, the Secretary of Defense, I won't call it the other thing, what they want us to call it, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has said that they have until 5:01 today to comply with the request for turning off those safeguards. And if they don't, they're going to basically use the Defense Production Act, which will allow the Department of Defense or the federal government to essentially nationalize Anthropic and remove those safeguards. The reason why the founder of Anthropic is not happy about doing these things is that he doesn't believe that AI is up to the level to make those decisions when it comes to automatic weaponry, when it comes to war fighting, or how they're going to use this information that all this information that they've got. We hear this morning that the Secretary of State's being sued by the federal government to get all this information on West Virginia voters. Why do they need our Social Security numbers? Why do they need all this information? It's a huge concern, and now we're getting in this massive data center being built in essentially my backyard. In Beddington, I'm in Falling Waters, and AI and this issue with the Department of Defense is screaming a lot of. I give credit to the Anthropic founder for holding the line at this point, but what are your concerns when it comes to AI? The use of it to have automated weaponry and the amount of information that the government is gathering on us to essentially hold over our heads. We don't know how they're going to use it. So I'll just turn that over to the group.
Okay, let's begin with Mr. Gilstrap first. Johnny?
I have long believed that automated weaponry is a bad idea. I think I go as far as saying that's the case with drones. The easier it is to kill people without risking your own people, that means war becomes a computer game. And when you're a country like the United States, where we have oceans separating us from our enemies, most of our enemies, the thought of being able to launch massive drone strikes onto real people is a bad idea. So extrapolating that out to AI, artificial intelligence, you can't stop the tide. There's a certain reality to all of this. I don't think that the federal government should be nationalizing or using the Defense Act to seize information from Anthropic. But the whole thing, there's a lot of change coming, and I don't think anybody is actually voting for this change. Even getting down to this new data center in Falling Waters or Beddington area. I have not talked to a single real person who's not a politician who says, boy, wouldn't it be great to have a data center here? It's just not something that the people want, I don't think, but it's coming anyway.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, there's two parts to the question that David's posed, and autonomous weapons is one. And there was some concern. They used Anthropic. The DoD used Anthropic a great deal during the raid into Argentina. The problem is not so much how it was used then. The question is how it can be used in the future. And this is what the Anthropic wants guardrails on to limit its usage. Autonomous weapons, as John Gilstrap has aptly pointed out, is of a question. But to Anthropic's view and my view, the biggest threat is the mass domestic surveillance, which can be done with Anthropic. And Anthropic realizes we do not really know the full limiting capabilities of AI, and they want to put guardrails on and says there will be a limit of how much domestic surveillance can be done. DoD is saying, nope. We're going to do anything, use it any way you want to. And Anthropic says you can't do that. Actually, Anthropic has a lot of leverage here because there's a lot of AI companies, but no one's providing the level of expertise, the level of activity that Anthropic's doing. So they pretty much have DoD over barrel just now. So they're not going into these discussions empty-handed. They have a lot of leverage, but the domestic surveillance, to me, is a worrisome part.
Mr. Carl.
Well, I have to say I agree with a lot of what the first two speakers on this topic. But because I'm so ancient in my view of technology, that's that I'm concerned is not a surprise. But the other thing I'd have to say is that any of the references to the data center in this county, I have to totally avoid any comment on that because my law firm was involved in a lot of the enabling legislation, and I actually, before I retired, worked on some of that legislation.
Mr. Bentley.
Well, I find myself in agreement with the panel. I think what is suggested here is very dangerous. The thought that a commentator for Fox News, who happens to be running the Department of Defense now, might try to nationalize Anthropic is scary. And he might try to do that because he's a power-hungry sort. The domestic data gathering is what bothers me the most right now. Surveillance of what we are doing, what the citizenry of this country is doing, what the voters of this country are doing, is important, and it's private, and it's none of the Department of Defense's business. And we ought to be resisting that at every opportunity. And the thoughts that Mr. Gilstrap mentioned with regard to the automated weaponry are also very scary and very real. That we become a country that kills more easily every day just because of the automation of the system. So I think we need to put a stop to it before it starts with regard to what Hegseth has suggested he's going to do.
Go ahead, John.
I don't know Secretary Hegseth as well as you do, apparently, but the as far as
You're missing a great deal, John.
Haven't you both watched them on Fox?
as far as domestic surveillance is concerned, I'm always concerned about this. But between what we willingly give up to Amazon and Google, every day just to get through a life online, I think privacy has sort of gone away, and I lament that. I'm not supportive of it. But aren't there already guardrails within the Constitution, Fourth Amendment, or pick an amendment actually, that prevent the intentional surveillance of U.S. citizens through any mechanism unless there is a probable cause to surveil them? I don't know.
You could make the argument there's parts of the Constitution that would cover everything that we do in life. But as we know, there's been a lot of legal challenges and there's continual exceptions to those. So I'm not sure the Constitution had in mind anything like we're talking about right now. Let me go back to DOD very quickly. They rebutted Anthropic's argument by saying DOD has no interest and using the models for fully autonomous weapons or to conduct mass surveillance of Americans, which they note is illegal. They emphasize the agency wants the company to agree, Anthropic to agree, to allow its models to be used for all lawful purposes. That's commendable, all lawful purposes. But your definition of lawful purposes is different than my definition of lawful purposes, and that's where the real crux come in. And I think Anthropic is right in saying let's put together some guardrails that we both understand that the limits of how it will be used.
Did Congress pass the law that we could not regulate AI for 10 years? Was that passed? Right?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Valente, before we continue, we go back to you, sir, for the final words.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So, we've got a massive, data center coming in. This proximity to the nation's capital and the seats of power have to be noted here. So we don't know exactly who's moving into this data center, but it's possible that whether it's Palantir or Anthropic or any other AI company that's driving a lot of these changes could be moving in as our neighbors. The Constitution. Essentially, this administration has treated the Constitution almost like whose line is it anyway? The rules are made up and the points don't matter. We do have constitutional protections, but a violation of law has to go through the legal channels. And we've seen this administration not really give too much of a care to violations of law at this point. So I don't trust the administration when it says it's going to use stuff for lawful purposes, because we've seen how they've treated the law throughout this, the last year and the previous 4 years that Donald Trump was in office.
What laws has the administration broken?
How many people are sitting in detention that have been ruled to leave, ruled to be released?
Has that been adjudicated as breaking the law? I don't think it has. I think that those who have been adjudicated as wrongly incarcerated have been released.
Bring those charges? Who would bring those charges? The Department of Justice. Who? I don't believe Pam Bondi is going to bring those charges. Let's talk about the Epstein files. The act for the Epstein files.
David,
they're currently in violation of that.
You're alleging lawlessness because you disagree with a policy. There's a difference, and I'm not. And that's fine to engage with the
by Congress to release those files.
I think David's right on point. He is alleging a violation of law, which is exactly what the Department of Justice has done with regard to the Epstein File Act.
A violation of law is something that's adjudicated. It's not,
But
because it angers you, does not make it a violation of law. And I'm not disagreeing that it shouldn't be released.
Isn't doing anything. The Department of Justice, who actually is in charge of with releasing this, who would you would believe prosecute this issue, are not, because they're the ones who are over the barrel over this issue.
Let's put this in perspective. The allegation is, or the implication is, that this is such a lawless administration that we can't trust the Department of War and the Secretary of War to do things. So that allegation, that's purely political accusation. Sure. There's no, and everybody's entitled to that, but you can't call that lawlessness.
There's mountains of evidence out there of what the administration's doing, but the problem is the Department of Justice is essentially holding the rest of the administration's hands while they do this. If they're the ones who have to bring those charges against the administration, it was nice when previous administrations would hold themselves to account for certain things. It hasn't always been the case, but the Department of Justice has been part and parcel of this administration and its lawlessness.
And when you hang a picture of the president outside your building, it does tend to question your objectionability. I should say objectivity. That would seem to affect that.
It covered about 3 stories. It was that long.
Yeah.
It looks like an old picture of Saddam hanging outside of Baghdad.
Yeah. So anyway, we're down to our final minute. I think, like most people of my generation, my view of future warfare was shaped by the movie Terminator, which came out in 1984 when I was 21. Probably the only movie ever where the lead guy was able to switch from the villain to the hero in one movie.
Started with War Games.
Starting with War Games was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Matthew Broderick.
That was a good one. Great.
Yeah.
Did you like to play a game?
Terminator definitely took it to another level. So in regards to future warfare, if that is where we are headed, that's a frightening prospect. I think most of us would agree.
Even worse. And that started in 1984.
Yeah,
the novel.
Anyway, gentlemen, thank you kindly. Good job, David Valente, to lead us off. And when we return, the Admiral is on the clock. All right, issue number 2. And for that, we go to the Admiral Bill Stubblefield. Will you?
Well, Rob, there's going to be a fascinating primary election in Texas this coming Tuesday, and I'd love to talk about it, but you always say, let's have good radio, and I'm not sure the primary would give us the level of dialogue you're looking for. So I'm going to shift to another subject. I prefer to talk about the Texas primary, but I'm going to go, how good is Trump's economy? 2 weeks ago, Trump announced the trade deficit for 2025 was down by 78%. The following day, the Bureau of Economic Analysis revealed the trade deficit was down by less than 1%, 0.2%. The 78% number was cherry-picked from a short-term number from October 2025, which reflected fluctuations in gold and pharmaceuticals, which analysis had predicted, but they said it'd also be a temporary fluctuation. The same post 2 weeks ago, Trump repeated his often cited statement that tariffs were paid by foreign exporters. Most analysts agree that the tariffs are paid by a combination of U.S. businesses and their consumers. In January, Trump told the World Economic Forum that the fourth quarter growth will be 5.4%. Shortly thereafter, in an interview with NBC, he said, I am very proud of the 5.4% growth. In fact, the numbers released in February was 1.4 and not 5.4. For the year, the U.S. economy grew by 2.2%. In 2023, it was actually 2.9. 2024 under Joe Biden, 2.8, both greater than the 2.2 that we grew in 2025. I acknowledge that there have been certain sectors of our economy that has improved under Trump, but why would he diffuse those those positive statements by introducing elements that are easily disapproved or easily disproved. And so these are just two examples. There are other examples that can be challenged. So my question to my colleagues, and I suspect this will generate some pushback, is the Trump economy as good as what he says it is?
All right, somebody that always agrees with you, Mike Carl, you go first.
Well, Trump clearly, it's just he's probably the highest ranking leading exaggerator of favorable information.
There's no probably about that.
Right. I mean, but there are millions of public officials who are the same way in the United States, and so I don't take for absolute truth everything that Trump says, but there are some indications that are the thinking of millions of investors who have billions and trillions of dollars actually at their control, and it's reflected in the New York Stock Exchange, in which it's back down just a hair, but it was over 50,000 for I think 52,000 for the first time ever. So that that's telling that there's broad-based investing confidence in what Trump has been doing. I agree that he's probably exaggerated on a lot of the details.
Fair enough. And just to give you a reference in terms of market performance over the last year, the Dow is up 13.97%. The NASDAQ up 19.94%. The S&P 500 up 16%. And the small cap Russell 2000 up 23.14%. And that is over the last 12 months dating back to this date last year.
Yeah, and I meant the Dow was the one that was broke the record.
I think, Rob, the percent of growth was comparable to what we saw in 2022, 2023, 2024.
Yes, the market performed quite well under Joe Biden.
They
as well.
did. So the point that Mike said, and I thought he was quite eloquent here, that the market has gone up, but not much more so than what we had during the Biden.
What's the question? Which was better, or was the question, what is the status of the economy now?
The status of the economy now? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and
how good is that?
I would remind Bill that it's traditionally reserved till everybody gets a chance to go before you.
Exactly right.
Chime
And I apologize, Mike, but I was trying to emphasize your point.
Okay. Appreciate the respect.
I'll now be cutting off everybody's mics for the remainder of the discussion. How you rebut is up to you at that point. Mr. Bentley, have a shot at it, sir.
Well, the investors who have a stake, those of us who are fortunate enough to have a stake, whether it's a large stake or a small stake in the Dow.
You're making me hungry here with all this talk about steak and all that.
in the market are enjoying the returns, but the large majority of Americans are not enjoying those returns because they're not a part of that market. They are suffering the economy of the Trump era. And a 1.4% GDP is not helping revive their feelings about how well the economy is doing for them. So we don't want the economy, we can't look at just the Dow Jones to determine what the economy is doing. We've got to look at the economy as a whole, and GDP is a part of that. a big part of that. And the trends are not something that give us a lot of comfort. Now, that if you've got all your money in and your income's coming from the market, we're doing very well there. But the large majority of Americans are not receiving their income from investment. They're receiving it from Social Security, maybe, or from their wages, and those things are not comforting. So I don't think the Trump economy is as good as, certainly not as good, admittedly, Mike, to what the great exaggerator has suggested.
Mr. Gilstrap.
People continue to be surprised that the bloviator in chief bloviates. You know, it's just his way, right? I think if you can get past the just visceral hatred of the president, that kind of gets baked into the cake. So let's talk about the economy here. The U.S. economy, it grew the GDP grew 2.2% in 2025. Spending is still strong. Recreational spending is still strong. Try to get a berth on a cruise ship these days. Try to get, all of the indicators of people being confident in the economy, except the ones that where the politicians are trying to talk down success. Is it a raging economy? No, it's not a raging economy. However, it is growing. Unemployment is in the low 4s, which isn't great, but it's okay. Inflation hasn't hit the 2% target, but it's still way down from where it was before. Job creation has slowed, but it's still growing. We added 103,000 jobs last month, if I recall that number. The dissatisfaction with the economy, I think, is Trump derangement syndrome for the most part. It's people that just refuse to accept that there might be success out of this administration. The International Monetary Fund described the United States economy as relatively strong overall, but warns that trade policies are perhaps future trade headwinds that haven't proven to be all that strong. Remember what we were projecting last April for the misery that we were going to be in right now? None of that happened. And what has happened is actually the economy has expanded. So we're not in a recession that was predicted. We're not in a roaring economy, but then the changes that are proposed in the big, beautiful bill, and I've said from the very beginning, that's the whole ball of wax. Either that works or the administration fails. That is just now beginning to get any traction at all after the first of the year. And so we'll see. But there's certainly not, I don't see that we can say that it's a bad economy.
Mr. Valente.
Look, a lot of y'all are talking about things that require a lot of capital to procure, whether it's cruises or the stock market. Stock market, unless you're actually actively pulling money out of your to fund your retirement, stock market generally doesn't impact your overall your overall living. The things that you need to focus on are, hey, when I go to the grocery store and I want to, get a steak for the weekend and it's $35 for, a couple T-bones, that's where people are seeing the economy is not great. The inflation was 2.8%, but the inflation-adjusted wages only grew 8% last year. So there's a disconnect between, where we're seeing inflation, but the wages are not keeping up, and that's why people are saying that this economy is not good. People are looking at their day-to-day spending and their ability to keep up right now. Versus, I've got, $500,000 sitting in a stock, a 401k account, and I've got that for my retirement. That's all well and good unless you decide to take the penalties and pull that money out. That's not going to do you any good today. So we're basing the economy, people are basing the economy off of their day-to-day living, and they're not trusting what the president's saying, which is fine. I mean, we talked about the Orwell quote, but or the 1984, but you know, we've seen the president fire the statisticians that do a lot of the economic reporting for the government. And we're just getting the information that Donald Trump is telling us, and it's kind of like that quote in 1984. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was the final, most essential command. Donald Trump is trying to fake it until he makes it, and I don't know that he's going to make it if the real economy, the day-to-day economy, does not improve for average Americans, including wage growth, including better jobs. That's where that's where the economy has to improve for this president to get any credit.
Bill, back to you.
Yeah, there's enough evidence on both sides. The question for provide fodder for whatever position you want to take. David Valenti, I think, hit it on the head. What do the voters say? What will they be saying in November? And I think the economy is going to be the big thrust. Right now, I'm not sure people are buying into the State of the Union address, where the economy is growing so fast. He's having to slow it down now as opposed to speed it up. We'll find out what happens in November.
Issue number 3, John Gilstrap.
Yeah, actually, I told the panel during the break I was going to change topics, but I'm not going to change topics because we got time constraints here.
The old fake out.
We talk a lot about fair elections and about the importance of fair elections and about representative government in Washington. And I did some research here, and I guess we've talked about gerrymandering on this show before, and I hadn't realized just how fairness is not achievable in so much of the country. In Massachusetts, 37% of the population is Republican. There is not a single Republican among the 11-member delegation between the House and the Senate in Washington. In Maryland, there's 35% of Republicans, and it's only one representative that is that's Republican.
And they're trying to draw him out, John.
Yes, they are. And there's an 83% or 85% in California. It's 43-8 in California. So and the California population is 40% Republican, which I actually found pretty shocking. And it works the other way too. That in Florida, there's 43% of the population is Democrat, but there's only 8 of the 28 members in Washington that are Democratic. So we have when we talk about fair elections and do we have fair elections in America, I think this gets to the root of so much of the frustration among voters that they actually are being screwed out of their vote because of the actions of legislatures. And I just want to throw that out to the group. If there's going to be gerrymandering, shouldn't we be gerrymandering as close to 50-50 as we can get?
That's a great question. Let's go right to the elder statesman, Mr. Stubblefield.
I agree, John.
Thank you for having your lid on, by the way.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. And my computer thinks the same thing. I agree, John. We should do that. There's other examples. Texas, which, to my surprise, 46% of the voters are Democrats. Yet it's viewed kind of as a red state.
25-13.
I'm sorry?
You're right, and it's 25-13 is the
ratio.
Republican to.
If you had two senators, then it's 27-13.
Right.
Yeah, okay, but your point's made. It should be. It is with thanks to gerrymandering, which the good congressman from Texas back in the mid '90s started this ball rolling to make it more of a political undertaken than a true representation undertaken. And I'm forgotten the guy's name.
Elbridge Gerry.
I'm sorry?
Elbridge Gerry.
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time. He's thinking of...
you're talking about... I thought you meant the original.
No, I'm talking about the guy in 1990s that was Speaker of the House that drove gerrymandering for pure political purposes.
You talking about Newt?
No.
Before Newt?
He worked with Newt. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Anyway, we're no longer represent the people. It's been driven for political purposes. And I agree, John, with what you said.
Mike Carl.
Well, I think that the system just almost assures the outcomes that we have achieved. Both the two houses of Congress, the one that every state has two senators, but the population determines how many members in the House are for those states. That's our system. So you take that and then you have the highly populated states, but if the like in Massachusetts, is the Republican minority is spread so much, not well, badly, I should say, among the congressional districts, then they're not going to be able to elect, any more members of the House of Representatives from Massachusetts than they do, which they don't have any now. So it just absolutely is the system, and even though it yields some problems in a lot of it seems disproportionate in terms of ultimate representation. It's the system, and it's been our system, and we'd have to change the Constitution and the Congress, and completely change the allocation in the states. Not going to happen.
Mr. Valente.
Yeah, there are lots of things that we can do. You can look at one of the funny things about our system is that we thought it was so great that when we helped rebuild democracies in Western Europe after World War II, none of the countries that we helped rebuild their democracies have our system. They have proportional representation. That's probably where, if you want equal representation based off of party membership, that's where you will get, at least a better reckoning of how the people vote. The problem is that the parties draw up the rules here. They tamp down any competition on the ballots, and you only have two choices. And now that we've got, we're in a system that has first past the post, which means whoever gets the most votes wins. If you're 43% of the population, guess what? If 60% or 57% of the population vote against you, you're not going to win. So, I could talk election reform all day.
But you only have 30 seconds.
There are so many things that this system that we have is so flawed that we need we need to almost throw the entire system out and rebuild from scratch.
Mr. Bentley, you have 1 minute.
I think the biggest thing we could do to help the current system, and I agree that it's a systemic problem, is to change the system of electing House of Representatives to institute term limits, so that we don't have people serving for more than 6 or 7 terms.
Mr. Gilstrap, back to you for the final minute.
My objection is not to that the majority wins. My objection is engineering the majority. I mean, gerrymandering itself, Elbert Jerry drew these voting districts that look like a salamander, thus gerrymandering. And that just puts a thumb on the scales. We're getting to the point now, we are not the United Cities of America, we're the United States of America. And where we talk about the frustrations about voters feeling that they're being cheated, it's because they feel like they don't have a voice. You look at what happened in Virginia, which county by county is a pretty red state, but it went blue because of the voter concentrations in the cities, and that's the way it works. But now they're talking about engineering to get rid of the last of the red counties. Right? I don't know how they're divided. I don't know if it's by county or by district, but trying to get rid of Republicans in the state house, and it's not fair. It's unsettling, and I think it's harmful to the country.
Similar to what Mississippi did.
And on that note, we conclude this segment of the program today.
Good morning. And when asked at his press conference on this past Tuesday why he felt the legislature should ignore the triggers it built into the budgeting system to stimulate additional personal income tax rate reductions, Governor Morrissey indicated, one, we need to look at what's happening around us in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Kentucky with regard to their tax rates and make our tax rate changes now. And two, we need to help our people with their affordability problems by reducing their tax burden. When asked how we can afford to do the tax rate cuts now, he offered generalizations. Quote, our budget is fiscally responsible, end quote. He said he wants to collaborate with the legislators, but he offered no clear, concrete numbers to back up his assertions of fiscal responsibility. Is the House of Delegates going to cave on its version of the budget during these waning days of the session? Is the governor offering the kind of leadership West Virginia needs at this time of our financial history?
All right. I always, as a person born and raised in Pennsylvania, I'm always leery of the comparisons of the state income tax rate of Pennsylvania to West Virginia because Pennsylvania has insanely high property taxes. So they can afford to have a very relatively low state income tax. West Virginia does not have insanely high property taxes. They have very low property taxes. So that's, I think, a better way to frame it. Not you, nor but I mean when the governor compares income tax rates. I'm always leery of that one. Via telephone, David Valente, you go first.
Yeah, so, I mean, but, you know, the current legislature is not bound by the past legislature. They can do what they want. The problem is, you know, the ideas of the past legislature to put some benchmarks in place before moving forward on income tax relief was probably some of the best work that the legislature's done in the last few years. It showed some real intelligence when it comes to how to do these things, and to blow this up because we got an election coming up. And I can point to the fact that we dropped the taxes regardless of how it impacts us, the state budget and places where that actually need money like PEIA and other things like that, shows how short-sighted politics is. You know, it's usually for politicians, it's just the next election is the as far as they'll look, and they want to take as much advantage as they can by passing these, feel-good measures, but and not really caring about the downstream effects of what's going to come from this budget. I think this is a risky move, especially with not knowing how the big beautiful bill, bloated bill that was passed is going to impact this state. It's a risk that can really bite the Republican Party in the shorts.
Mr. Carl.
Well, I've been involved in tax policy for
a little bit,
quite a while, and recently we did have a beginning of what was planned to be a income tax rate reduction, and I think it yielded some growth, and that's what the concept is. You lower the rate of income tax, which is not purely from earned income, but largely is from earned income, and you raise the business activity and the economic growth of the jurisdiction that it applies to. So I think that principle has been started. It showed some confirmation of the effect, and so I think he needs to to go after that, but the other side of the equation is the wasteful government spending, which continues to be a problem inherently, and we need to cut back in a lot of wasted government spending at the same time.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements to this. One is the personality pushback of personality friction between Vern Chris, Clay Riley on the House Finance Committee and the governor himself. I was a little surprised that the Senate as a whole basically accepted what the governor had requested by going with a 10% tax reduction. And the argument that we heard from Jason Barrett the other day was we wanted to keep the discussion going. We'll wait and see what the House does, and then we'll respond to the House. By doing so, it does not address our many needs in the state, and David alluded to some of them. The roads, what's going to happen with the bill that's coming out, the Medicaid, the SNAP benefits, the Child Protective Services, the school aid formula. The list goes on and on and on. And going back to your point, Mike, that a reduction in income tax will have an economic benefit. I think you're exactly right. Theoretically, it would. However, with that, there's a however with this. This is the argument we've been hearing since with Mitch Carmichael, and then especially through Craig Blair, that is going to be the Pandora. We're going to have a lot of businesses coming in. Well, this past year, we've not seen those businesses come in. We're seeing a few. We're seeing data centers come in, but we're not seeing the businesses that brings jobs in. They are going to Pennsylvania. They're going to Ohio. They're going to Kentucky. They're not coming to Tennessee, and I think there's two parts to this equation. One is the making a more favorable business climate. The other one is how strongly you promote it. We had a Mitch Carmichael that was working night and day trying to bring businesses in, and he was doing a good job. I don't see a Mitch Carmichael right now doing that. So we may have part of the equation, but that part of the equation by itself is not doing it.
That brings us to Mr. Gilstrap.
Yeah, I do not understand the focus on reducing state income tax. A 10% reduction off of the top tax rate, 4.82%, brings it down to 4.338. I mean, it's just Virginia is higher than we are. Kentucky is at 3.5% starting in 2026. North Carolina is 3.99%. We're still going to be above what they are. Nobody, I don't think reasonable people, when they're deciding to move their families or move their businesses, start with, well, how much is the personal income tax rate, especially when it's down at these levels. What they're saying is, how good are the schools? How is the infrastructure doing? How can I get water that's not black? Can I, there are very real life decisions life choices that go into the decision making, and you can reduce the state income tax to zero. And if you still don't have good schools, and you still can't get reliable water, and you still don't have a reliable infrastructure, people are not going to come here. We need to concentrate. And I don't know that spending more money on education is the way to go, but certainly that's the linchpin, is to fix the education problems in West Virginia. If we can solve that, then we can charge a 10% rate and still thrive.
This goes back to your story about potentially going to Arkansas for a job once, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Care to revisit that story?
Yeah, I was given my job was actually moving to, this is when I was in the explosives business, was moving to East Camden, Arkansas and I was living in Prince William County, Virginia at the time. And, my son was little, and I was not going to go to East Camden, Arkansas. There's nothing there, and the schools suck. That would be a terrible thing to do to my family. So I changed careers.
Back to you in Norwood for the final thought.
Mr. Gilstrap is exactly right. We don't take care of business. We don't take care of what the needs of the people are here in this state. It doesn't matter what we do with the income tax rate. So, I think the governor is providing no leadership. He's trying to make political points by saying, I want to drop the personal income tax to 10%. It sounds great. Everybody wants to cut taxes. But nobody is willing to do the hard work to fix the school problem, to fix the problem with child care that we have in this state. The many problems that we face, the governor's not doing anything to do it. The legislature's not doing anything to do it. The House might be, but the Senate's certainly not.
The last time two opposing sides came to agreement like that, they called it détente. So, yeah. On to issue number 5, and with that, the anchor leg, Mr. Michael Carl.
Okay, we're going to go back up to the top. What do U.S. citizens who are seeking domestic jobs think about the Democrats' illegal immigration support?
Norwood, right back to you, baby.
Well, you know, I think U.S. citizens who are seeking domestic employment think well about Democrats who are. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Democrats enabling illegal employment. Or
illegal
immigration.
Right.
I am not doing anything. I'm a Democrat. I recognize myself as a Democrat, and
So do we.
so do you.
Yeah, I have for a long time.
And you were getting along so well, John.
I don't consider that I enable illegal immigration by suggesting that the government ought to follow the law when it enforces immigration law. So I wear this red badge of resistance today, resisting ICE, resisting the way the government does its immigration enforcement. But that's not because I am trying to enable illegal immigration. It's because I'm trying to insist that the government of the United States do it properly, do enforcement properly. I don't want illegal immigration to occur in the United States. I want everybody who comes into this country to do it legally.
As opposed to what the Biden administration did.
I'm not talking about what the Biden administration did, Mike. I'm talking about what is happening in this country today, what the Trump administration is doing. And the Trump administration is trampling on the rights of not only immigrants, but the rights of American citizens. They've killed at least two American citizens in the enforcement of immigration, of their immigration policies. And they are trampling on, when they can do that, when they get away with doing those kinds of things in Minnesota or Los Angeles or wherever they do it, they're going to be able to get away with it in West Virginia or wherever across this country. We need to resist that and insist that the government of the United States, who represent you and me, do it legally. If they're going to enforce the law, do it right. Do it legally. So I don't think Democrats as a whole are enabling.
And on that note, Norwood, time. I'm going to go to David Valente. David, go ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about Nurul Amin Shah Alam, Rohingya refugee who is in the United States legally, was picked up by ICE and dropped off at a Tim Hortons 5 miles from his house. He froze to death. He was blind. He could not speak the language, so he couldn't communicate, and died freezing to death outside of Tim Hortons in Buffalo, New York. If that doesn't boil your blood, I don't know what's going on with you. The problem isn't, whether it's illegal immigration, it's the enforcement of what they're doing, the way that they're enforcing, the way that they're lawlessly kicking in doors without an actual judicial warrant, the way that they're dragging people from cars, busting out windows. And in many cases, these people are here legally with correct papers, and they're being dropped off at. There was that kid that was abducted by ICE at a Target and dropped off at a Walmart 8 miles away. It's the casual cruelty of what's going on, which is what Democrats and independents are recoiling at, and you're seeing it in the numbers of Donald Trump's policies when it comes to immigration. The people have abandoned the president, and what was one of the issues that they agreed with him on. They don't like the enforcement of what they're doing. They thought that they would enforce the border, not drag people from Minneapolis all the way down to South Texas and then just let them go without any way home. So, that's what people are sitting down about. That's what people are angry about, is not, jobs. It's not the whether they should be here or not. There should be comprehensive legislation about how do we let people who, have self-determination, if they want to come here and contribute to our economy, how do we get them here to do that? How do we flatten the system so it's not such an onerous system to come here and contribute to our economy?
Wrap it up, Dave.
That's what I'm having a problem with.
John Gilstrap.
Oh, the hypocrisy. We worry about lawlessness when there's been no adjudicated lawlessness with the Trump administration. And then we conveniently don't want to talk about what happened during the Biden administration, which was the Biden crime wave at the border, where all of the immigration laws were just ignored, and we were flooded with illegal immigrants. And now that they're here, we want to say, well, we have to give each of the 20 million or 15 million or 5 million, whatever the number, a lot, a metric ton of illegal immigrants. Now suddenly we're very concerned about the law. Well, when you open the spigot, you have to empty the drain, right? So in this case, you can use the words like verbs like abducted by ICE, David. That's fine. That resonates in your crowd, I'm sure. That's not what happened. What happened was they arrested a guy. Right? That happens every day. Not every arrest of any crime is necessarily with a guilty party, right? So these people are being arrested, they're being detained. If they're here illegally, they're being sent home, which is where they should have been instead of being here. And as far as the shootings are concerned, the adjudication of guilt against people who will tell you that they were defending themselves, that's what juries are for. That's not what the Democratic drumbeat wants to deal with, and it is frustrating.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, we tend to put everything in the same bucket, and we try to argue that from that bucket, depending upon our political leanings. There are two issues. There was the border itself, and Biden did have an open border. The border has been closed, and I'll give Trump full credit for closing the border. Yes, Mike, that's only part of the equation, my friend.
Thank you.
No, wait till the second part.
Don't waste your time. You got 30 seconds.
Okay, the other part is...
Mike, let him finish so that you have your final say. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, the actions of ICE. I think this violates our Constitution. It violates the fact that everybody has a fair hearing. By ICE's statistics, only 14% of the folks are hardened criminals. But that is a justification that has been used by the administration to justify the tactics of ICE for those 14%. What about those other 86%?
All right, Mike, you get the final minute. It was your topic.
I agree with Mr. Gilstrap's statements about all of this. And the fact is that ICE is not breaking the law, and Minnesota government was breaking the law both at the state and city level, and California's got the same problem, but the Trump administration is enforcing the law that was allowed to be broken by the Democrats.
You're saying ICE isn't breaking any laws, Mike?
That's what I'm saying.
None?
None.
Zero?
Zero.
Why were the heads of their organization replaced in Minnesota?
If you break
They weren't
the
doing
law,
anything wrong.
if
Why
you
were they
break the
replaced?
law, you go to jail.
Well, that depends on who's prosecuting you, right?
There are
depends on who the prosecutor
there are
is,
administrative
right?
mistakes. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Let's bring on the
who's the
bring on the
prosecutor?
prosecution. Let's see it.
Prosecutor's Pam Bondi in this case. Isn't she?
I don't know.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Well,
Okay.
Well, it's a Justice Department.
is she going to prosecute him? I don't think so.
Well, then
She's trying to save her own job. Hey, final thoughts. We just got up a clock against the clock. Final thoughts next. Final thoughts. David Valente, 8 seconds. Go.
Yeah, Democrats need to spend the next couple of years telling us how they're going to strip the powers of the imperial presidency away.
Norwood Bentley, go.
Is this the dagger I see before me? The handle toward my hand. Come let me clutch thee.
Don't pound the table. Bill Stubblefield, go.
Happy birthday, John Gilstrap.
Happy birthday, John Gilstrap. Mr. Carl.
I'm wearing my deplorable pin that Hillary Clinton make me hate her.
Mr. Gilstrap. That's strong.
Everybody have a great weekend. It's supposed to be nice out.
Dave Ramsey's show is coming up next. This is Talk Radio, WNR Martinsburg and TV 10. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you in 70 short hours.